Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Spotlight. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I've managed to try and track this man down. He's worse than the fugitive trying to track this man down, but I've got him. I've finally got him at long last. Welcome to James from E20 ZONE TV. How are you, mate? Thanks for coming on.
No worries at all, mate. Better late than never. I would say that.
It's true. It's true. So, as you know, mate, what we'll do with this, I am basically going to ask you a series of questions. People in the chat, they're quite welcome to ask you questions near the end. Yeah. But I'm going to ask you a series about yourself. And we're just going to have a good chilled out general chinwag.
No worries at all, man.
So, the first one I always put up there is basically tell me a bit about yourself. You know, how you got into what you do, and we'll move on for the next question.
Interesting one. Interesting question to start off with. 37 years old, born into a family of West Ham mad fans. I've got family from Canning Town. I've got family from North Wales. I've got family all over the place, and basically my family was split into two. Basically, my dad is a one of six. And basically there was a family in sort of Thurrock, East London, and then the family split, went to Wales. The family that stayed in sort of East London was my dad's brother, a couple of brothers and the sister, and obviously my nan and granddad had two sons in North Wales. So yeah, that's my family side of things. Obviously I've got a sister who's 6 years younger than me. And yeah, listen, I grew up in Dagenham, always have done. Like we just discussed it off air about Dagenham, and yeah, I grew up there. I lived a I lived a good life. I'm going to be honest. Like growing up, I had a good family life. Obviously, times were hard in the 90s, and I was born in '86, and obviously growing up in the 90s and recessions and things like that, yeah, times were tough. So yeah, listen, I enjoyed I enjoyed the 90s. I got into West Ham at a very, very young age. One of my sort of first sort of games was Alvin Martin's testimonial, Tone. That was wow. that was one of the first games that my dad took me to, and I think we played Chelsea. And we either lost 3-2 or we lost 4-3. I can't remember what the result was, but I remember being there. And then yeah, the rest is history, basically, mate.
Wow. Yeah, I remember actually being at that game as well, but for different reasons. I was actually, believe it or not, in St John's Ambulance, so I got in there watching that game for free, basically. I remember that vividly. That one.
yeah. I was there in the what was it? What they used to call that stand? Used to be Dr. Martin's stand. What was it used to be before? I can't remember what the name of it. It really escapes me because I remember it being a Dr. Martin's, and it's like, was it the centenary stand or something like that?
Yeah, it was a centenary stand, but you know, you got to think at them days, you know, you had obviously the West Stand, East Stand, North and South, didn't you? And then eventually they named them.
Yeah, and what it was, I was right up the top. I'll never forget it. Looking down, Upton Park in its prime, claret and blue. And yeah, it was a really good day. I remember it vividly.
Wow. Yeah, Upton Park. Jesus, we've missed all that place.
Yeah, I know. It still hurts to this day, if I'm being honest. When I look at West Ham as a whole, obviously growing up there, I remember going to my sort of first real game in the 90s. I remember like Cotty, Dowie. And then sort of like Julian Dix, Michael Hughes, Ian Bishop, Tim Breaker, Julian Dix, like all these players, John Moncur, like another one and all. And then you sort of, as I got older, I sort of went a bit more on my own rather than just with family and like obviously with mates and things like that. And then yeah, like the 2000 era was like, it's probably the best West Ham that I enjoyed, like the Canio, and I think the vibe was very, very good back then. Like I don't think there was any expectation, so to speak. I'm being honest.
No, it was quite. I suppose in certain respects, we knew where we stood in them days, didn't we? Big up to Anthony here. Big up Tony and James. Tony was born just after the Second World War, but don't let the glasses fall for you.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I remember, because it was more of a yo-yo club then, wasn't we? At the end of the day, are we going to do it right? No, we're getting to that relegation stage. But yeah, I mean, some great names you mentioned there.
Yeah, I remember 1996. Like when remember West Ham, I go by the kits to a point. Was it Dagenham Motors, and then you
Yeah,
had like the sort of the amount of times West Ham had kits with no sponsor on the front is like ridiculous. Do you know what I mean? And it's just been mental. And I always remember the game, FA Cup, Wrexham away. Danny used to play for us, Portuguese little
oh,
boy.
Danny. Yeah, I remember Danny.
Yeah, I remember when he scored at White Hart Lane in a game, and obviously he had the orange football. Like he had the orange
Yeah,
football, and in the game against Wrexham in the snow. And I listen, any West Ham fans, I suggest who are watching this, go back and watch that. That was the environment that football used to be played in. Like there used to be snow on the pitch. They used to give you an orange football and go, "Here you go." Right,
yeah, crack on.
you've got to crack on. And there was none of this health and safety, player welfare, or anything like that. It was basically that's your job. You got to go and do it, sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. Andy saying we had a good chat in last night's show. Definitely.
Yeah.
Big up to Jez, asking me through them more. That's a crap picture behind you, Tony. Hey, you know we've got to do it. I've got James here. I've got to put this picture up, and that it's nostalgic for us. You know that.
Yeah.
Well done for the show last night. Well, early as this morning, Jez as well. Big up on you for doing that as well, mate. So next question I want to ask you in that. I mean, fun of you've already covered basically your family was obviously what tied you into supporting West Ham and that divide, etc. But what is your best highlight from West
Ham? I will go back to the family because my granddad was from Plaistow on my dad's side, and he was the one who really got me into it. Like proper Cockney. He used to work on the trains. He used to go and work on the trains. He used to be like a signal man on the trains. And obviously, he moved to North Wales because my nan was Welsh. They met during the war or just after the war, and obviously my dad was born and basically lived in West Ham buildings. Basically, I think it's Marlborough Road in West Ham, and
Yeah.
for me, my granddad was the one who sort of got me into West Ham at a young age. Like where you had the Welsh side of the family, a lot of them supported Manchester United, and I was like, nah, I ain't supporting them. I'm West Ham, right? Yeah. And my granddad used to always say to me, "Go on, boy, how's the boys getting on and all that?" And obviously, yeah. That was good memories. Good memories, my granddad. I'm not going to lie. What is my best highlight from the club so far? Obviously, I'm going to say Prague. Like I've got to say Prague because that's recent history. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's been certain moments at West Ham that's been good. Like I remember games but the games I remember are all for the wrong reasons. If that makes sense. Like I remember 2007, Carlos Tevez scoring a goal to keep us up at Manchester United in the piss and the rain. Like it was like we was going down basically. And if we didn't win at Old Trafford and they had just won the league, that was it. It was game over, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, I remember the playoff finals. Like I think Crystal Palace was the one that really crippled us to a point. Just after we got relegated, got to the playoff final, and then we lost 1-0. But then there's also been some really good memories. Yeah, to a point. Obviously, getting to the FA Cup final was such a good thing in 2006. But then to lose the FA Cup final hurt. Do you know what I'm saying? It was one of them ones, and it wasn't just losing it; it was the way we lost it. I think us losing the way we did, I think that hurt a lot of West Ham fans deep down. And I think a lot of people still hold that in there a little bit in that situation because we should have won that final. Like we was seconds away, and if we would have maintained ourselves for another 25, 30 seconds, we would have been FA Cup winners. Do you know what I'm saying? Then I look up to recent history, so over the last say 15 years, ever since Sullivan's been in charge, and it hasn't been wonderful, Tone. I'm not going to lie. There's been moments where we've been flirting. Well, obviously we went down in 11 under Everett Grant. We bounced back in 12, beating Blackpool, and then we've been steady, but we haven't been like anything else. And obviously, over the last say four years since Moyes come in, we went in a different direction, and that was a West Ham that I've never seen. And this is where I come to the present day. Whereas now, under Lopetegui, we've got to maintain that. Like we don't want to be going backwards anytime soon. So I'm going to say Prague is probably the best highlight for me, because obviously everyone was together that night, and when that final whistle went, I think a lot of people, so many people was relieved inside to win the trophy, and get it done and all that. Some people look at it and think, oh, it was a piss easy trophy, anyone can go and win it, but we did win it. Do you know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, like, if you're in something, you're in it to win it. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as you win it, sort of thing. And,
no, absolutely.
And for me, that will always be remembered. But I'm going to say there's one game that I remember from Upton Park where I always will remember this game for the rest of my life. And that is Ipswich Town at home, semi-final. Whenever Matthew Etherington scored that goal, top corner. And I've never heard Upton Park so bouncing,
vocal.
like so vocal. It was like you had 30,000 people together there, and it was like an army sort of type atmosphere that we're winning this. Like we're going to that final. So that game will always remember with me. Obviously, there is other games also, like Arsenal in 2007, when we beat them. They had like something like 35 shots on goal or something, couldn't score, and then we end up winning the game 1-0. It was like that game will always be remembered also. But yeah, I'll definitely say Prague, mate.
I mean, that was a special moment, and I agree with you. When you think about it, as we got through to each round, the optimism grew with you at the same point, because you're thinking to yourself, can we? Can we? And as it kept going forward and forward, and it's like, this has got some meat behind it. We can actually kind of go on to win this now. Then you look at the other teams playing around you, and it's like, this is falling into our lap. And of course, when we come to that night, I mean, I've been the other half of that ran out the front door, kind of screaming like, really, it was
yeah. But tell what it is though, Tone. It was like that was a sort of thing that night that was set up for West Ham to fail. To a point, because every time West Ham get to these sort of moments, like I remember games where we've been close to getting to a final and then we've bottled it. Like even when we played Manchester United in 2016, like I remember the FA Cup game. We had Manchester United at home. I think if we won that, we was getting to get to the semi-final, and we end up folding under pressure again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So look, I will never ever discredit that trophy ever, because I think we've got to look at where we're at, and where we're at, we're that sleeping giant that's sort of coming up the rails, and you've got to start off at the bottom. Do you know what I mean? Like West Ham. If someone said to me right now, what would you rather have? Would you rather be like Aston Villa, Newcastle, have loads of money, haven't won anything, haven't looked like winning anything? Or would you rather be us, who have won something, and that night will stay with us forever? I'd have that night, mate. I really would.
Yeah, I agree on that. Yeah, you take that to the grave, wouldn't you, at the end of the day? 100%. Tyler from T-Boys TV, good to see you as well, Tyler. Looks like a really good transfer window for West Ham. Stepdad informs me. It's not a bad window at the moment. Well, we've still got to get some of these signings over the line. But yeah, I mean, what do you think of that one with the Jota one? I mean, obviously not in the Forest, great signing for them. One we was going for, and that's another one we've let slip.
I think West Ham have just sort of gone in a different direction. One thing I can say about West Ham currently right now is they are acting a bit ruthless in the market now. At last, like, as I said last night, it only took us a month to try and sort this out, but it's better late than never. If West Ham go out, as I said last night, get Somerville, Wan-Bissaka, and Forkroot, then I'm happy with that. Yeah, but obviously, I think we need one more just after that, which I think might. I think if I look at them three players, so the three players we've added, it's an 8 out of 10. I think if you had a centre half, it's a 9 out of 10. If you had both, it's 10 out of 10. So,
yeah, good. I think if you look at it, the main thing is we all know now that Moyes is out of the way with, and the reins have been taken off, and Tim's got control on that. it seems to be, you know, I wouldn't say it's a perfect balance, but it's a good balance at the moment. It's considering, you know, some of the things he's done recently. I know there's been some bad press against Stetson, but hey, look, if we can get the other ones over the line, then you know the old saying, all's forgiven, basically.
Yeah, that's right, mate.
Just see what these guys are saying here. Happy with the Somerville coming in? Yeah, definitely. And we said that last night, didn't we? It's going to be a great sign having him in.
Yeah,
He
100%, mate.
offers a balance, and I think if you look at it, at least he's not afraid to get stuck in, and defend at the same time. So it's something that we've been missing for a while as well, especially the left-hand side. Big up to Steve, Tony, James and Chatters. Hope you keep him well, Stevie. And big up to the Goat Saves Football, big up Early Doors Football in the chat. And obviously don't forget my esteemed guest next to me, James from E20 Zone TV. So we've said about the best highlights, but what's your worst moments from West Ham?
Ooh.
And I know we've only just got 16 minutes in that, so people in the chat, get your slippers on, it's going to be a long one.
Like there's a lot of there's been a lot of worse moments at the club, bad, like dark times. Like I'll start off with recent history, right, and I'll work my way back in time. Obviously, 2018, Burnley at home, like the protests, people surrounding the box of Sullivan and people getting on the pitch. Back then, people were just about had enough of the situation, yeah. And I think what it is with a lot of people, including myself, when it comes to Sullivan, it's because the way the move was constructed and the way he carries on. Yeah, he doesn't really put West Ham's best interests at heart. He puts his pound note at heart. Do you know what I'm saying? I think there's been dark times. I remember us getting hammered when we first arrived at Stratford. Yeah, I think we sort of worked our way through that. Remember games where we would go, I think we played Southampton at home, we lost 3-0, got absolutely obliterated. Played someone else at home, we lost 3-0. Burnley, I think was it there, we lost there and all. And it was just dark. The situation with Sullivan in recent history has been a bit of a problem. Like even before COVID struck, there was protests again in regards to GSB and the sale of Dean Garner and everything else. So that's always been an issue, yeah. Going past that, obviously Magnuson era was bad because he nearly put us out of business to a point. He nearly sort of put us in a situation where West Ham might have never come back from. And when I look at the likes of Sullivan coming in, that's the only thing I can really say that I can thank him for coming in, because if he didn't, then maybe we might not be where we are right now. But doesn't mean to say what he's done, why he's been here has been right. I will say that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think 2003 hurts me and always will do. I think like that getting relegated in 2003 with Carrick, Joe Cole, Defoe, Di Canio, Canute, Trevor Sinclair. I think we had some other players, Glenn Johnson. Like to go down with 42, 43 points was a crippler to a lot of fans. And I think us getting back 2 years later helped us. And we was a bit of like a yo-yo club. Like we'd go through a spell where we'd be all right. We looked like we were stable.
Yeah.
And then we would go have a season where we just collapse. Just go straight down. And then it'd be like all panic stations. I think ever since we've come back up in 2012, we've been more steady in that development. Like I think we've become a bit better than that, whereas before we was in and out. But I am going to say 2003. Obviously, there has been other games. It's been games where I would say it's been worse for the club. Like obviously, the FA Cup final, as we just said, was that was painful, mate. Like to be that close and to get done the way we did at the death, and then we lose on penalties. I think that really hurts. But 2003 getting relegated under obviously Trevor Brooking and obviously Glenn Roeder and all was the problem at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean that one in itself, and that, I mean obviously you've got to think majority of players we had at the time were kind of breaking into the England camp, and then of course And don't get me wrong. I mean, don't wish it upon anyone. I mean, obviously we know Glenn had this tumor and stuff like this, but when you're going to his house and throwing stones and bricks through his windows, kind of thing, that's a bit extreme, kind of thing.
It was bad. Like back then, it's been so much stuff that's happened over the years. Like over the years, when I look at even Sullivan to a point, I remember people going and charging at him at Wigan away.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember people saying like, because I think what it is with West Ham fans, right? And this is what I always say, is that we are a passionate bunch. Like we are very committed to this club, like, and we give everything for this club. Like people will go without stuff to be at that game. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and I think with certain issues, and obviously another thing I can say, which is like a worst moment for the club, is obviously moving from Upton Park to Stratford. Like, I think that comes into it, not as in a football sense, but as a like movement. I think, and I say it quite a lot on E20. I've said it for years, and I even looked at a clip that I'd done a year and a half ago, right? Of we was having a debate with Sean Whetstone and everything, and I was basically talking about like the structure of the move. And West Ham was always going to be a franchise the moment Sullivan got his hands on it. So I think he looked at the 2012 Olympics and went, once they're out the door, once that's done, that stadium's there, and West Ham can get that stadium. And basically, what he's done, he's made West Ham big enough to get into that stadium to a point. So I do think in 2016 when we moved, I think that was heartbreak for a lot of fans, including myself.
Yeah, it was dark days. I mean, like, you know, when you think all the history we've had there at the club, and we knew full well. I mean, like, you know, I know you've not been into the London Stadium, but I remember when we first moved in there. I can't remember what the game it was we went and watched. But when you see your own fans, close proximity, like, you know, 20, 30 foot away from you and that, fighting with each other up in the Evans, fighting with each other, and it's like, hold on, this is their new home, and we're fighting against each other. It just didn't make sense. It was just wrong at all levels.
For me though, Tony, I think what it is with a lot of people, and this is where I always have this argument, right? And I really do, where I see people from different sort of walks of life, so to speak. Now, there'll be people who are, say, 5 mile from Upton Park, who have lived there, who have had people living there. And then there'll be a geezer who lives out in Surrey somewhere, and he's telling you what our West Ham should be. And all he does is travel to West Ham and back. You don't live in the area. You don't have friends in the area or family in the area. And listen, I always, ever since when I started doing the YouTube, and we probably will talk about the YouTube, but when I started doing the YouTube, I started to realise that was like West Ham was quite a big club to what I thought it was. Do you know what I'm saying? I always thought West Ham was a big club. I never thought it was that big that I'm speaking to people from Australia, Thailand, America, and they're walking down the street with like claret and blue shirt on. Do you know what I mean? Like, but maybe that was just me being naive. I don't know. But for me, like, it was like a bit of a wake up call on that. But with Upton Park, and we are seeing it literally now at the present day, is that when you start really having a go at the locals and they start turning back and biting back, they ain't going to have it. But I think now it's gone full circle, because obviously with the concessions now, that affects everyone, and it doesn't just affect the locals. It affects everyone who's from Hertfordshire or like Derbyshire or wherever you're from. Like if you're a West Ham fan, that affects you now. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course.
So
yeah, it's a big thing, that one, isn't it, mate? You know, and it's. I mean, well, I think we already covered it, and you've seen it yourself.
Yeah,
I bet Wake Up as people are talking, aren't they? They're showing their defiance. You know, the ticket sales are way down. Steve alluded to that kind of thing on Sunday. But that's what you want to see. We shouldn't, you know. I can see. Sorry to interrupt you, mate. I mean, like, I see it from a business sense why they're doing it, because, as you said, you know, being a franchise thing. But the one thing that, and not being funny, you know, as you know, I talk to the Arsenal people and they have the same thing with the Emirates moving from Highbury to there. It's the fact of your clubs were based on the local man, the local woman, the local kid. They got your club to where they are, and it seems like these new owners come in, and it's like, you know, as you said, it's just all about the pound note.
I think what it is with Arsenal and I'm going to say the elite six is that we're not on that level. I think Sullivan thinks we're on that level, but we're not. Yeah, and I think when I look at it, there is arguments there, right? If he says, "Oh, you got to increase the ticket prices," then give us something back. You have to give the fans something back at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? And the argument is when I look at Arsenal, Chelsea, Manchester United, they're elite clubs. They play Champions League football. They sign the best players on the planet. They can go out and afford to do that, whereas West Ham really can't. Yeah. And if West Ham's ground was owned by us, i.e., owner, fans, etc., I might look at it a bit different. But £5 million stadium, and like you're charging like kids and OAPs £100 a ticket, as good as like in the modern world, no one can really afford that. Now, the Betway Cup thing, I agree with it to a point, but I don't think it's going to do as much damage as if they've done it against Aston Villa at home on the first game of the season. Now, it all depends on how you feel with your heartstrings, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because on the one hand, if you walk out, it feels like you're walking away from West Ham.
Yeah.
On the other hand, you're trying to do it for the greater good. Right? So you're in a bit of limbo basically. Whereas the Celta Vigo pre-season friendly isn't really gonna like matter, so to speak. So I get it from that side.
Yeah.
But then I don't get it when you can't just do that and then stop. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, exactly. Evening, happy having you. I'll be keeping well. Good to see you. Yeah, we know it. I think as the season develops, it'll be interesting to see where that path goes with us. Hopefully in the right direction. But
yeah.
Next question, you've alluded to it, so it's the next question I am going to fire up against you, and what basically inspired you to do YouTube?
Oh, that's a good one, I must admit. Bit mad, really. I'm going to shout out one man that I will always thank. It even it makes me emotional because he was there when I was going through a really hard time, and he's no longer with Hammers Chat, but this man will always be remembered with me. Like he's always welcome. He's always welcome on E20. He's a good friend of mine, and that's Charlie Walsh, mate. Charlie Walsh from Hammers Chat was one of the people that sort of said to me one day, he said, "James, you need to start doing this on your own." I remember it. I remember it clear as day how it all sort of began. I went on a video for someone, never knew what YouTube was. I knew what YouTube was, but obviously I was watching West Ham Fan TV. I used to see Jazz on there. I used to see all the boys on there doing their thing. And I'll be honest, I went on a platform one time after we just drew 2-2 with Brighton, just after Christmas. I'll never forget it. Ben Johnson scored a goal in the game, and he don't score many, right? And I talked about it. I talked about the game. They said, "Oh, like we've seen that you've been commenting and like hear what you're saying, all that." And then I went on there. Then someone sort of approached me and said to me about why don't I do their channel for them? Yeah, for the next sort of 6 months. 6 months. And I didn't know what I was doing, mate, really. I was like, all right, I'll try it. And I enjoyed doing it, but I was 100 mile an hour. I was doing show every days. I was like trying to do too much too soon.
Right.
And eventually it was just draining the life out of me. Yeah. And I'll never forget, I was on a video with Charlie, because obviously I met Charlie through Hammers Chat. Went on Hammers Chat. I started to get myself about a bit. And he said to me, he said, "Jay," he said, "you need to do this on your own, mate. You shouldn't be doing this for someone else. You know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about." And I was in a bit of a situation with it, Tony. I'm not going to lie, is where if you go into something like this, you have to go in with it full-blooded. Like, i.e., I don't want to go into it and then walk away from it, sort of thing. Because I think, oh no, like, do you know what I mean? I've started it up. Like, if you're starting something like this up, right, you've got to do it for the enjoyment, but you've also got to take it quite a bit serious to a point.
Yeah.
Like because otherwise it just becomes a bit of a joke, and like I've never wanted it to be like that. So I was doing a video for someone. I had this troll on my case literally all the time. All my time, I was on like videos with other YouTubers and everything, and I'll never forget. On the September 1st, 2021, I started E20. I come up with one of the shittest names going at the start, Yeah, and listen, like it was some like rap name, like Jay Hustle or something. Yeah, it was Jay Hustle. Yeah, I'm gonna say it was shit. It was shit, mate. Yeah, it was absolutely embarrassing, right? And then I said to my missus, who I'm with now, yeah, I said I need to change this name because this name's just shit. I ain't going nowhere with it, right? And I was just thinking of like things. 'Cause everyone's got like West Ham this, West Ham that, West Ham views, West Ham. You know, everyone's got West Ham, West Ham, West Ham. And obviously, you have to be careful with copyright issues
Yeah.
and everything else. So I was sitting with her one night, and something just popped into my head because I had to get on the train the next day to go somewhere. And I was sitting there thinking about, yeah, I got to like, going through zone one. And I got to get a zone 4 ticket or zone 3 ticket or something like that. I got to get. So something said to me, E20 is like the postcode of Stratford. Yeah. And we're there for the next 100 years. Now I'm not gonna I'm hoping to live to about another 70 years, maybe, yeah, but I ain't gonna live for another 100 years. So I come up with E20, and I was looking for the next bit of piece, and my missus turned and said to me, what about zone? As in E20 zone? Is this it's like it's a
Yeah.
place with the train, like the zones and all that and everything. And that's how the name come about, E20 Zone TV. I'm gonna be real now. What I'm gonna say, it has been hard at times. Like when you're dealing with other channels, other people. I've had many rows with different channels. I've had a lot of. There's a lot of people who, in my honest opinion, and Tone, you've known me for quite a while. Right, I've had you on E20.
Yep.
I'm pretty straight to the point. There's a lot of people that do it for financial gain, right? And that's up to them. I do this. I do this because I like to be real in what's being said. I do like differences of opinion. I think opinion is good. I think debate is healthy. I do.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
if you're in an echo chamber and everyone's saying the same thing, I think that can be dull. I think the only time it gets wrong is when starts getting personal and they start going down a route of shame. And when you start getting shamed for things and to be looking to a bad light, for me, that's not right for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I've heard this West Ham family, but sometimes it don't feel like that. It feels like everyone's in it for their own, and it's like fuck the rest, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Agree on that.
as I say, I've been doing it now. It'll be coming up to 3 years in September that I've done it. There's been many. It's only been twice. Yeah, and only I think last season was the closest. I mean, literally, I was a button away from just like deleting the whole thing.
Wow.
Because I was getting to a stage where I'll do a video like this with you, with someone, talk about the game, talk about stuff, and I'll be like, I think, oh, that was a good video. The comments would be about, oh, you're this, you're that, you're a Moyes lover, you're like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not enjoying West Ham, yeah, and I've seen worse than this. Like, I've seen us go down. I've seen us get like literally sign players like, from fucking abroad and us be shit, basically. Do you know what I mean? So when I'm seeing that we're in the top 10, we're doing okay, we're doing better than what we usually do. And then you've got people just on this train with Moyes all the time. It was just relentless. Now, not to say that Moyes didn't need to go because I think the time was right, but I think I have an element of class about me, yeah, and I always have. I wouldn't treat any players like that, any managers like that who would give me success. And basically, he's giving me success, basically. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
No, of course, of course. I mean, great comment from Happy Amaret, and like you just said it as well. It is great to have such diverse channels, and it's all about the opinions. You know, that's why if you look at us last night, I mean, the main thing, I've got an Arsenal fan, I've got a Man United fan, but we all talk about respective clubs, but in a good light. You know what I mean? We do have a bit of a laugh because I think if you look at it, sometimes you need to do that, especially when I mean, the brother-in-law, he's an Arsenal fan through and through. But it's the gift that keeps on giving. Arsenal, at the end of the day, it's one of those. So given that side of things, but at the same point, yeah, there is that seriousness about it as well. Opinions. If you don't have that, then what's the point of doing a channel in the first place?
I think what it is, Tone. Yeah, I will say this quite openly. I respect all the people that do the game. I do, like, because I know what it entails. Yeah, some people have this act of like sort of jumping from pillar to post and sort of like you're this, you're that, and they sort of they won't admit it, but they're influencers. They influence people into thinking what they want to believe. Now, one thing with me is that I've never lied about my shit. But I don't. I just don't do it. I've always said it with Chest in regards of Sullivan, and I've been right on that. I've said it with Chest in certain other things, and I've always stuck to my guns on it. Do you know what I'm saying? And what it is, they might look. Maybe some people look at me. I wear an hat. I've got a bit of a like a chavvy accent, maybe, and they look at me like I ain't got a clue. But I do have a clue, and I do know what I'm talking about. And I think people look at you, and it's a very judgmental crowd. Like you, they either like you or they don't. And if they don't like you, they'll let you know. And if they do like you, they'll back you to the hill. Now, I've got an American on my channel, and I was told when I had Lucas on the channel, your channel won't do anything, James, because you've got an American on there. And my attitude was my attitude to that was they can go fuck off, basically, because at the end of the day, he's a West Ham fan. He's no different to any man, woman, or child all around the planet. Whether because he's from America and he's like speaks in a different accent, well, I've got to treat him different. Do you know what I'm saying? And it comes to a stage with that sort of thing. And I'll tell you a little story quickly, yeah. Just quickly on this. And I'm going a bit off. I'm going to lead on to it, yeah.
Yep.
But I was at a sort of family get together at my brother-in-law's house. Walking there's Aston Villa fan there, yeah. And he was talking to me about Villa and West Ham. Like he knows I'm a West Ham fan and all that. He said, how do you think you got on last season and everything else? And he said about the YouTube and all that. And I said, well, I've got an American geezer on there. And the first thing he said, how's that getting on for you? He said, because basically that's the sort of that's the norm now. Like that's like sort of like people look at that and think that's a negative. Now for me, I don't look at it like a negative. I look at it that I've got an international fan base. Do you know what I'm saying? Right? Do you know what I'm saying? And that's how I look at it. I look at it that I've got I've got other American fans who tune into E20 ZONE TV. Now, I don't give it all this sort of like, like all this Cockney fucking rhyming slang and all that, and you've got to be from the Bow Bell, like listening from the sounds of the Bow Bells and all that game. Yeah. I know what I am, and at the end of the day, the boys that I've had around me, some of them have been good as gold. I will say that. Like some of the lads have been really top draw. Some of them have been to a point wind up merchants. Yeah, and I think they've used E20 to a point to sort of be that. Yeah, which I've learned over the years. I think as I've got older and I've got more wiser to the YouTube game, I've got more experienced, and now I pick and choose who I have on. Like, I can always tell when someone comes on E20 if they're up for if they're up for it. I had a young lad on the other day, Jay, very well spoken, comes across, gets his point across, articulated. I was like, messaged him after. You want a regular slot on E20? It's there, because that's how I work. Well, I'm not in this for the pound note, mate. Like, I'll get my paper for elsewhere, and I don't need YouTube for that, so to speak. But do I regret doing it? No, I don't, because I've met some really nice people. But has it been touch and go, and has it been hard at times? 100%, mate. Like, there's been times where I've sat there with my missus and I'm thinking to myself, where am I going wrong? Like, why is it not kicking into gear? And I've had people around me saying to me, Jay, listen to me, you're doing all right. If you one thing with me, I haven't changed. You can go and watch a video from a year ago or 2 years ago, and my persona has basically never changed. So I've always been true to myself, basically.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, like everyone's entitled. And funny enough, after our show last night, we was talking about me and Anthony, and it's a global sport.
Yeah.
Sky, TNT, whatever you want to call it. It's put out there. Eurosport. Whatever you look at it, you can go onto a streaming channel. You can find whatever sport you want to watch.
Yeah.
And as you said, people across the world, they support West Ham, and long may that continue. And if you can get in the talks with one of them, that's great. I mean, like Tyler, great guy, a Luton fan, and even though unfortunately the club went down, kind of thing, I'm just going to still watch his shows. I'm still going to keep in contact with him.
Yeah,
because I think, as you said, it's all about supporting each other, and it can be a good community if you want to make it like that. But as you said, there is people out there that don't.
What it is, Tone, though, it's so competitive, mate. That's the problem with me. Like with me, I will promote any channel. Like if someone says, if as I said to you off air, if you said to me, James, you wouldn't mind getting me on E20 and promoting this channel, I'd say no worries, date, time, done.
Yeah.
I'm not with me. I've not got the ego like that. That's one thing with me. And I think what it is, a lot of people have misjudged me personally. Yeah,
Mm.
like some people, I'm a bit like Marmite. You either think I'm all right, or you think I'm a bit of a prick. But with me, I always stay true. Like I won't ever sway left or right. I always stay in that line and be that sort of guy. In regards of Lucas, and I use Lucas as a prime example. That's a man that's flying to Tampa now. He's gone
Yeah.
down to Tampa. He's gone down to Tampa to watch West Ham this coming Saturday. Now, like he's in the US. He's from Maryland, Washington sort of district,
Mm.
and he is traveling all the way down to Tampa in Florida to go and watch a preseason friendly. And what does me is when people turn around and they will turn around and say to me, "Oh, he's not a real West Ham fan, right?" And I'm like, this geezer comes over here, he spends thousands upon thousands of pounds over when he's here. He goes up and down the land, he gets tickets, he gets accommodation, food, drink, everything. He will do me. Like that's someone who's committed. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I can't have it that when some geezer turns and says to me, who might go to 5 games of the season, that he ain't a real West Ham fan. This geezer comes over for like 3 months and he's spending like in excess. And I know this for a fact, time because I've met him. I've been out for a beer with him. He does easy between £3,000 to £5,000 when he comes over it.
Christ.
And that, like you got it like and over a sort of and that's, don't forget that's tickets to even get over here on the
Yeah.
plane.
Before then. Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
So
just say like we're back up in there. Big up Brian CFC. Hope you're keeping well, matey. Good to see you in here as well. I'm gonna Anthony Herbert's asked you a question. He's gone here, James. Who is your best player for West Ham, past and present, and why?
Julian Dix, I think, was one of the first people I sort of loved as a player. I loved his commitment and everything about him. I'll tell you one player I did like growing up is Michael Hughes, Northern Ireland midfielder.
Yes. Yeah.
I did like him. I thought he was good. Obviously, people say Cotty. I remember the Hearts and Kitson sort of combination back in '97, where I thought they was like we signed them to like keep us up again, and they come in done a really good job. Obviously, Di Canio coming in was just was pure like joy for me. It really was. Like when Di Canio arrived, I thought he was just a man who was like who felt West Ham.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like he's one who just sort of felt the club, and we took to him, and he loved us, and that's how it was. Do you know what I'm saying? Obviously, we had that era in sort of the early 2000s with like your Defoe's, Freddie Canute, Glenn Johnson, Trevor Sinclair was another player I used to really like, and all. Not going to lie, I thought he was another player that we signed, and he was really good. And then you sort of go from there up until probably FA Cup. I think Marlon Harewood, Ashton, Zamora, etc. All
Yeah.
them players were very good also. So yeah.
I mean, I like and it's a shame his kind of career with West Ham was short and sweet. Thomas Repka,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
agree.
we took to him like his family, and when he left and that, I mean, like the man was emotional, tears, and it was it was a bit of a sad day really for West Ham because I think he was a great player. He wore his heart on his sleeve, got stuck in.
Well, he got
And
sent off. He got sent off his debut, didn't
oh, he was a West Ham legend there, and you've got to think a little bit different
Yeah.
to Marco Boogers, but hey, we are that's a different story altogether. You know what I mean?
he? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just go back onto that again. As Hammy Permit said, Lucas is lovely, proper giant hammer. I've seen him on your show several times. He talks quite well for himself as a West Ham fan.
Yeah. He's a good man, man. Like honestly, I will back Lucas up to the hill. Like, listen, I've had it with so many people, some of YouTubers take the piss out of him because like he's a yank that don't know what he's talking about. And for me, he's one geezer that I will always back up because he does know what he's talking about. He's not an idiot. Because I don't deal with it. Like I've learned not to deal with idiots, Tone. I don't deal with them. I'm saying so, you know.
What's the point? Yeah.
Yeah.
Big up usual suspect. He says Eddie Bovington. Yeah. Oh yeah, Giant Emma recurred. Jesus Christ. So another question for you, James.
Go on, mate.
If you could become the owner of West Ham, what would you do and why?
If I could become the owner, first off, I'd make football affordable. Right, and I'll be honest with the fans and say, right, this is what the situation is. If you want these top end players, we're going to have to start charging a lot more money. You tell us what sort of where you're prepared to go to in regards to watching West Ham, and we'll work around you on that. I think that would be the first thing I'd do. I think a museum is in order over West Ham, but it's a shame because there's no history. All the history's gone from Upton Park and been sold off. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So it would have been nice to have a bit of history and a bit of like heritage at Stratford. And I think if I was the owner, first thing I'd be trying to do is look to try and buy the stadium as best as I can. Like, so I think as a club we need that sort of foundation.
Absolutely.
Like, I think, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would probably say like make sure like basically you look out for the fans first to a point.
Do accept that. Usual suspect saying 6:58 p.m. I've got thunder and lightning, but no rain as yet. Whereabouts are you? Usual. Let us know where you are, because we are expecting it, aren't we? Big old storms apparently. So, next question for you. If you had the chance to talk to any player or manager, and that's not just West Ham, what main question would you ask that person?
Oh, that's a good question. What would I think West Ham wise, what manager would I ask? We haven't had any real good ones. I would probably ask Moyes.
Ken.
I'd probably ask Moyes how he felt about the situation that happened last season. Like, is there anything that he could have changed? Like, or was it basically, and did he see the stuff on social media? But I think that's a question that I would ask if like, how he felt about that, because obviously walking away and he got treated right in the end, yeah. But I think the build up to it and how it's sort of like perceived, then yeah. As like, I've put like Harry Redknapp back in the day, no, not for me, because he was just always in it, like looking after his own money, sort of thing. Manager wise, it's so tough, mate. It really is. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I'd probably say Moyes. I say Moyes. I say like, how did it feel to win that trophy after so long, and how did it feel when the fans sort of turned on you to a point? Because I think that does get overlooked. It does, like the fans did turn on him in the end, and like there's that saying in it, like you be a hero for so long, and then you eventually become a villain, sort of thing, and you know, and that's what it was. As for like a different manager, I think Alex Ferguson would be someone that I look at and say like, what was he sort of his method to success? But I think he was just a born winner. I think he turned boys into men and he just made them into machines. And Manchester United in the 90s and early noughties were just a phenomenal outfit. Even though I don't like Man United, I do rate him as a manager. I think he was one of the top. Obviously, that sort of I grew up on that generation with your like sort of Wengers and like your Fergusons and all that. And obviously Jose Mourinho, I think, would be a good one and all to sort of like, because he was the one who sort of come on the blocks, so to speak. But yeah, it'd probably be Ferguson for me to see like what drove him to success.
Well, yeah, because you got to think he was close to being sacked as a manager at Man United because he wasn't getting anything at that stage. And then what made him turn it around? I mean, that's great answer. Yeah, I love that one. Which are you most proud of?
What, in life or in
life football? Yeah. I mean, this is a broad. This one you can say has got quite a opens up a broad spectrum for this answer.
I'll go West Ham. I'm proud that West Ham now are starting to sort of to feel that they're a big club. I think that to me makes me very proud when I see people starting to stand up and say, no, we're not that mid-table side anymore. We should be competing. I think before that era happened, I think West Ham was just content. And let's be honest, we always knew what we was going to get. Mid-table, couple of good games, couple of bad games. Might be like a big six side at home on the odd occasion, and it'd be what it is. I think I'm proud of the boys for Prague. I really am. Like, even though some of them, or most of them, have gone now, I'm still proud of them for that. I'm proud that West Ham are looking up rather than down. Like, that's one thing I will say. I'm proud of that. So I'm proud on the West Ham front. Me personally, I've got a good life. Would I say I'm proud? I done a lot of things when I was younger, i.e., like playing pool. I won stuff, played county, proud of them sort of things.
Yeah.
But I'm not really one of them people that sort of goes on about sort of the past and things like that I've done, like, because I've lived quite a sort of simple life, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And but on the West Ham front, I would probably say them things that I've said. That night, like the 7th of June, 2023, would always stay with me, like forever. Yeah. And I was proud of the boys that night. And I think when it comes to West Ham, we've had some dark days where we've not been proud. Like when you look at sort of moments and things overshadowing the club, fights, riots, protests, things like that.
Mm.
I think eventually it becomes it don't become like you don't feel proud of your club. But I think in recent times I have been. So
yeah. Because I remember when we was in Europe first of all, with I think it was under Pellegrini, was it? I think our first abroad game in that, and we whipping up seats for a stadium and stuff like that. It's just don't be going down that road. I like this one that Usual Suspect says, Jay's proudest moment trying to find a winner at Goodwood.
I know. It's been one of them weeks, Usual Suspects. I will say
that. Tony's favourite player was Marco Boo, because he told me. I was actually at that game. Never getting peeing down the rain, and he went full pelt. I've counted 27 prouds. Yeah, because we are proud. There's no two ways about it. And obviously, our good old friend there asked the question: if West Ham are going to have a good cup run in, which competition do you think it would be?
League Cup. League Cup, I think. I think if West Ham can pinpoint that as a realistic trophy, I think FA Cup's always hard. I think whoever knocks Manchester City out, like, they usually go on to sort of win it. Last year with Man United done them at the end. So I think League Cup wouldn't be a bad shout. Do you know what I mean? I think if we can have a good League Cup run, FA Cup run, then great. But I think League Cup's more. I think League Cup's more realistic for West Ham, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Another question for you, mate, as we're getting near towards the end. If you were stuck on a desert island, what three people would you like to be stuck with?
I assume that's like famous people, I take it. Or is that
famous, If your missus in the background, you can say her and that, keep yourself in good stead.
Well, she's got you up about something. You know what I mean? Right. First one would be Mark Noble. I will say that. I think Mark Noble, we're roughly similar ages. Like, he grew up, obviously, as a West Ham fan, played, and I think he's a year older than me. I think he'd have some stories to tell. Yeah. I think Paolo Di Canio would be great. If you had Paolo Di Canio as your sort of on a desert island with Mark Noble, that would be good. And I'd probably say someone like don't want to say Pyatt because obviously Pyatt was only there for a season because obviously like he was just magic. Do you know what I mean? But I'd probably say someone like I'll tell you what I'd say Bobby Zamora. Bobby Zamora wouldn't be a bad shout. He's a barking boy. He's local to me. Obviously he grew up playing in a sort of Sunday league side that was really really good. I think it was Jays or something like that. He played. So it'd be nice to sort of get history of them growing up, hearing about it and their sort of stories, and obviously Paolo Di Canio being the entertainment. Because I tell you what, some of the stories that Paolo Di Canio would say about his management skills, especially at Swindon Town, would be hilarious. So
that's true.
It'd be interesting.
Oh, brilliant, man. Big up to Yeti, Long-Haired Yeti's Cave. All right, chaps, how are you keeping well, mate? It's good to see you in here. Bloody hell, Tony, that picture of Mike, I haven't seen one of those in a long time. Yeah, you've only seen dust, unfortunately, James. Anthony.
Yeah.
Good shirt, League Cup, yeah. Saying like each other. Believe you. Mike up my favourite joke name. Yep, we know that. What would I give to be stuck on an island with Zinni? Oh dear. Zamora, yeah. Good guy. Last question for you before we get the panel to ask the chat ask you some questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
I think I'll do it in stages. I think family-wise, I'll probably have a kid with my partner, and I'll be pretty settled. Probably move into a place and everything, and get things done that way. I think YouTube-wise is a tricky one for me because I think if it comes to a stage where it gets too much, again, the next time I think it'll be the last time, if that makes sense. Like I enjoy doing it, but sometimes it becomes not a bit of a chore, but some of the grief isn't just worth it. Do you know what I mean? I'd like to be settled down, peaceful life. Obviously, I'd like to see from my outside of my sort of bubble. I'd like to see the sort of world or the UK sort of come together for once, rather than just like wanting just to self implode. That's a different story. But to make it short and sweet, as long as I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I've got family. That's all I want, mate. I'm pretty easy going.
Yeah, brilliant. That's good. So, people in the chat, if you'd like to ask James any questions, please put them into the comments. We'll follow them up here and there, and we'll give another 5 minutes. And if you don't have anything come up, then it's been a pleasure having James on. They're just saying hello to each other. Big up to Aguna Matata. Hope you're keeping well, matey. Answer Yeti's question. What has Uber Eats delivered his dinner? No, yeah, probably has. I'm waiting for mine to come, I must admit. Good question from Aguna Matata. Yeah. How did you feel about moving from the London from Upton Park to the London Stadium?
Let's get this right. I think it was the right move, right, for the idea, but I think the move was handled completely wrong. I think and we've discussed it so many times, when you go down the route of sort of moving somewhere, you've got to make sure that you look after the locals, and I just don't think they did. Yeah, I think they told the locals what they wanted to hear. The locals believed them. They went over there and they dropped them like an hot brick to a point. I think we moved into the ground too early. I think the ground wasn't ready, and I think they rushed the move to a point. Whether or not they rushed the move because of the fan base, because if the fan base turns, we all know the fan base will get their own way eventually. So they sort of put it on the fan base, got them in there, and then they can't say anything more about it. But I was happy with it because I think it was the right move. But the way the move was constructed was completely wrong for me.
Yeah, because the funny part about it, I mean, I know that between us and the Newham Council, we actually had got the rights to buy the stadium. But of course, the timing with obviously Levy with White Hart Lane, Barry Earn with Leighton Orient, both kicking up a stink. And of course, then you had the spy scandal with infiltrating Upton Park kind of thing. Then yeah, you know what I mean. It was one of those, and now we, as you said, we pay a rent, and that concession things is a bit of taste in the mouth, 100%.
Yeah, I agree, mate.
Happy Emirates saying, James, if you could be a fly on the wall, where would you like to be?
Oh, good question. On other YouTube channels. See what they said about me. Do you know what? I'm going to be honest. I used to be like that. I used to want to know what other people are saying. Now I've got to a stage where I just don't really give a shit, if I'm honest. I'd like to be a fly on the wall in the boardroom to see what they're really saying about these concessions thing, and what the real reason is behind it. Like the real reason, because I don't think inflation. You can use inflation for so long, but West Ham's a multi-billion-pound company, yeah, and like they've got billionaires there. These people ain't skin. These people ain't holding like a bucket outside at Stratford and like say help us run this club. Like this is a like cash flow sort of club sort of thing. So I probably like to be in the sort of in that boardroom and having a look and hearing what they've got to say. Because I might be honest, some of the things I do here, I just don't believe a word of it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And for me, if I'm being truthfully honest, I just feel that I feel like West Ham is just not West Ham as we know it. Right? I remember walking out of Stratford, just to say this, and out of Upton Park, sorry. And someone said to me, he said, "That's it now, James, it's done." And I went, "What do you mean?" They said to me, "Well, West Ham's going to become a franchise now." And they see the vision what Sullivan see all them years ago. Get them over to Stratford, big old stadium, West Ham, London. Make them an attractive asset. If they don't do that, they can't make no money out of it. Do you know what I mean? And that's basically what it is. That's basically what it is. And I think with a lot of people, they can't accept the old West Ham and the new West Ham. You have the old West Ham side of people who can't let it go, and you got the new ones who are saying about it, and that's what the problem is, if I'm being honest.
Well, I think in that respect, it is the false promises, wasn't it? You know, the
Yeah,
fact that we're going to have the seating as close to the pitch like it was at Upton Park, and that never. The worst part about it, the seats are still there to this day doing nothing. And that would have brought the seats to the edge. But yeah,
yeah,
we've got a stadium there, which unfortunately, the fact that we rent it, we couldn't do anything with it. Whereas if we bought it, we would have definitely have changed it around.
I agree, mate, 100%.
Good question here. I mean, obviously, a great comment from a good Matata. Upton Park and Highbury, unique buildings, architecture. Yeah, definitely were. Anthony saying, question to both. Worst West Ham manager of all time?
Well, first one that springs to mind for me is Avram Grant. Like that one just springs out at me.
Steve says the same.
And we should have, and yet again, it was our owner who decided not to sack him. I'll never forget a game in the January. Yeah, I'll never forget. It was in January. It was a freezing cold night. West Ham just lost 3-1, I think it was, to Arsenal. And he was on the verge of the sack, and Martin O'Neill was going to come in and take over West Ham United, and it got leaked to the papers or something. And I think,
right.
Cut a long story short, he didn't go through with it. Didn't sack him. He ends up getting us relegated. I think Village was a bit too soft, and I think the one season he had with West Ham, obviously the Upton Park era, I think everything fell into place for him. Payet, him, the players. It was a magical moment to end that sort of historic time. Yeah. After that, I think Pellegrini was just a fucking disaster. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you had a manager in there who was trying to be. I think when you're getting a manager from China on a free, that must tell you that it's done. I mean, you've got to say it's fucking done. And he comes over. Fair enough, he's doing all right at Betis. I'll give him his due. He's doing all right at Betis, and he's gone back to Spain. But at West Ham, he was just a complete nightmare. After that, don't know really. Before that, I think Redknapp was all right. People rave about Redknapp, but I don't really see it myself. I think he was just like a wheeler dealer all the time, and he hates that saying Redknapp, right?
I know he
He
does,
was,
but
he
he was,
was,
wasn't he? Yeah.
yeah, like he's the one who would go out and say, right, we want to go and get Paolo Di Canio after you just pushed over a referee. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Don't get me wrong, he done the right thing because he ends up becoming a legend at West Ham. Do you know what I'm saying? But there's also times where he let players go, like your Rios and things like that, where it was like, hold on a minute, and we're bringing in people like Titi Kamara and Rigobert Song. Like, do you know what I mean? So, like, for me, nah, not for me. But like, obviously, Kirbishley was all right. Kirbishley was okay, but yeah, again, another one where he was like full dawn. Zola wasn't all that. Um, I'll never really forget it. When someone sort of went to sort of Sky Sports News and said, "Well, what do you think of Zola?" And he said, "Oh, he's a fucking Chelsea man. Like, why is he here? Like, he's like, why are you giving him the job? Like, you should be giving someone of sort of class." And that's the one thing I will say. I will say this to sort of round this up with you on what I'm saying. That's where Moyes from last season, and this is where people haven't really got it in their head. Moyes has made us into that side that now we demand top end
Yeah.
quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lopetegui was someone who was there. Don't get me wrong, but he's a decent manager. He's got a decent CV, and that's where we should be aiming. Like we should be aiming for a top 10 manager, not a bottom 10 manager. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, funny enough, I see it a little bit different. Pellegrini for me was the worst one. Avram Grant is the second, obviously for me.
Yeah,
Pellegrini, I'd rather watch paint dry because we just played. We played decent
yeah,
from defence to the midfield, and that was it. We didn't know what
yeah,
to do when we got into the attacking area. We just stayed where we were. Avram Grant, yeah, I mean, we know that was a disaster in that, and of course, maybe before your time, James, and he had a very short stint. That was Lou Macari, worst disaster
yeah,
we made.
yeah. Lou Macari, I've heard about because I think if I got this right, did he take over from? Was he the manager? Then Billy Bonds was the manager, or was he the manager before?
It was before Bonzi.
Yeah, yeah. I remember it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. That was, yeah. I think they would have burned Upton Park down if he stayed in charge there, basically.
yeah.
Aguna Matata's asking if you were a Gooner, would you want the Crankies and Arteta out?
Right. I think see the Cronkies and Sullivan are pretty similar in the way they've acted. Moved to different stadiums. Said that they've got to up certain things, season tickets to get order for revenue. I think when I look at Arsenal, this is no disrespect to any Arsenal fans, but I think where they've come from in recent times to where they are now, and they are up there, right? That they are a contender for the Premier League this year. I think that is a good sign. I think what it is where they just can't get over the line at the minute. That's frustrating them. But Arsenal and West Ham are two different things because one thing with Arsenal, which could happen to West Ham, and it even could happen to this day, is West Ham are never too good not to go down. Like we've been there before, and I don't get one thing with me. I do have that old West Ham in me to think, you know what? There's always one bad season West Ham have where we can't just kick into gear at all.
Yeah.
I think Arteta's doing a good job to a point, but I think this season's the final season for him. And I called this 2 years ago. Not 2 years ago, a year ago, when Declan went, we had a lot of backwards and forwards with Arsenal fans on E20, fucking hell of a lot. And I turned around and I basically said they've got 2 years before you're going to want him sacked. Yeah, and I think this season will be it. I think if Arsenal have to start fast. Arsenal have to start and maintain this for 38 games. And for me, I just don't think they can get past City because I think City are, as I said last night on the show, I think City are a machine. I think they know. I think City are a sort of team that if they need to win 10 games in a row, they will win 10 games in a row, and they know how to do it. And I think when you've got that animal in you, who just who goes win, 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 and it's just like there's nothing no one can do. It's just like a computer game at the end of the day. So it's going to be interesting to see.
It will be. I agree on that one. Anthony's asking this one. Can you both remember when Harry Redknapp pulled someone out of the crowd and put him on a sub in the friendly? It was Southend. Yeah. So they played Southend, and this fan was giving Redknapp untold stick. So he said, "Well, if you can do any better, come on." And the fan went, "Yeah, all right then." So he put him on, kind of thing, like,
And he was better than Chapman.
Yeah, that's right.
He was. What did you think of Lee Chapman, Tone?
I think it was one of those. I mean, like, for Leeds, he was fairly decent for them and that. But I think if you look at it, for us, I think for him it was just a case of, I'm here, I'll do what I've got to do, and that was really it. It was really very much hit and miss on that one.
Because what it is, I sort of, it gets a bit like phasey with me from like 94, 95, like 96. I remember clear, like Dowie, Cotty, Monker, Bishop, Hughes. Obviously, Michael Hughes. Obviously, Mike Hughes had been there a few more years. Obviously, I remember Trevor Morley, but I don't, if that makes sense. I'll be lying if I say I watched him play. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Obviously, Stevie Potts. Remember him growing up, and it's probably from 96 or 95, 96 season. I'll tell you what, I do remember the final game of the season, the Man United game, where we sort of ended up drawing 1-1, and Blackburn won the league that year. Do you remember? I remember that.
Yeah.
And then obviously the following year sort of carried on from that sort of thing.
Yeah, some good, some great players. I mean, the one that kind of, I think the opportunity we sadly missed, and what we could have been the potential of seeing what he could have done for us, and he would have been an absolute West Ham legend, and that was Dean Ashton getting injured early. That was a choker, when that happened for me.
Yeah,
I think he could have gone. He would have taken us levels. I do believe he would have done that.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, man.
Happy Amaret, who is that player that Nobes picked up and took off the pitch for time wasted?
Herrera, Man United. Can't remember his first name. Midfielder. Begins with A.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Matthew Harrison, big up for Bournemouth fan, great guy. Great show. Nice to hear from James and his views. Spotlight is an excellent show. Thank you very much, mate. And I'm glad I've got him on today. I really am. Mate, 21 years, as he said there, no bullshit. Evening to Henry. Hope you're keeping well as well, my friend. Hi, chat. Hey, Moss, how we doing? Hey, Tony, Hammer's moving very well. Yeah, we're doing quite nicely at the moment. We're very pleased, but we've still got to see it.
Hold on, Tony. I'll be right back.
All right, mate. Good Matata saying, James, nice one. Tony, top man. Thank you, mate. You are as well. Don't forget that part as well. Watched one of your little shows yesterday, or two of them you did last night. Quite funny with that voice. Mossbox Well goes, yeah, good, mate. Good. Can't complain on that. I said, I'm glad I got James on that. And for a few that's in the chat, even the not that they haven't got YouTube channels, I'd like to get you on at some point onto Spotlight, ask you some questions. Be good to see your views on things. Saying hi there. Yeah. Apparently, I've just seen an article there, Moss. Apparently, the German manager has basically told him to get his arse in gear and get over to West Ham, and that if he wants to feature in the 26 World Cup, he's got to come out to us. So that's good. That's a good endorsement in my eyes. I'll take it all day long. Lee Chapman played for Arsenal too. Of course, I forgot all about that. Somerville, brilliant. Yep, he is. Chris, how we doing, mate? Hope you're keeping well. Long time no see. Big up Tony, James, and all in the chat watching. Yeah, hope you're keeping well, mate. It's good to see you in here. And Herrera, that's it. Full crew. That's what you're saying there. Here he goes. Look, still trying to flog this dead horse. Breaking news: Eddie Nketiah on his way to West Ham for 30 million plus add-ons. Yeah, okay. We believe that when we go on there. I was just saying, because Moss was just saying about Fulkrug and that, and I've just seen an article as we was talking that the German manager has turned around and said to him, like, get your arse in gear and get over to West Ham. If you want to feature in the 26 World Cup, you've got to move. So we'll take that endorsement.
100%, mate.
Still think Emma should go for the Iceman, Jonathan David. Yeah, 26 million. Eddie de Marseille, 26 has gone for. Okay. De Zerbi finding good Deleos all over. Interesting. And 5 years time, mate. It's good. That's the end of it on the questions for Spotlight. I mean, it's been a great show, and I'm really pleased to actually have him on board. I mean, it's taken forever and a day to get this organised, but I'm pleased it's come across. Christian from Meta Football TV saying, will Fulkrug leave Dortmund after just 1 year, though? Apparently so. He's keen to come to Upton Park. Look at me, look, nostalgic as always. He's keen to come to the London Stadium and say that if the German manager's saying to do the same, apparently the talks are quite ongoing between the two, between West Ham and Borussia. So, hey, stranger things have happened, Chris, as you know. It could have very well happened. Canada tennis doing awesome at Olympics. Nice, good to hear that, Moss. And just on a final thing there, James, I mean, anything you'd like to say before we go?
Keep the faith with West Ham, because that's all we've got. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're doing the YouTube game, I respect your work. Honestly, I really do. I know how hard it is when you got to sort of get motivated, and sometimes life takes over where you just got to, like you got to manage a life, and you got to manage the YouTube life and all that game. Do you know what I mean? And one thing I will say is have respect and morals for each other. I think that's more of the broader thing I am going to sort of say to round it up. That I think at the minute, there's a lot of hatred, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of tension in the world, and I think that needs to be sort of calmed down a little bit before like it gets out of hand. Do you know what I'm saying? As I say, I'm from locally to sort of East London, and it's a common occurrence with certain issues, especially with knife crime and things like that. I think that needs to be sort of cut out. Right, excuse the pun, but it has to be sort of sorted out.
Yeah,
pretty quick. Do you know what I mean? Because like we're in the 21st century, and it's like we're living in a movie sort of thing, like a horror movie at best. So I'll leave it at that. I really appreciate coming on, Tone. I really do. Thanks for having me, and keep up the good work on here, mate, because you're doing well. And the boys you got on here are all good lads, and you get to that 1,000 before you know it, mate.
No, thanks, mate. I appreciate that. Just got a couple more comments before we finish up. Then Henry saying, what's the most surprising transfer so far? I suppose the best kept secret, Mbappe moving to Real Madrid. That's got to be the most surprising one. What a kind of joke that was. Moss Sports World, big up. Yeah, they were looking at him for sure, but letting Fulkrug go in a surprising, he's been good for them. We'll take that. And he's saying big up to you as well, James.
No worries, man.
But yeah, people in the chat, thanks for hanging around with us and asking some great questions to James. We appreciate having that, and it's been a pleasure having him on board. And his description will be in the link when I finish. So anyone that wants to go over to James's channel and have a look, please go over there, share, like, and subscribe as always. Great guy, and been a pleasure knowing him, I must admit. Just got some last comments before we finish off there. You're trying to get the Americans with automatic guns and England with the knives. Geez, Canada, no wonder we get the high ratings. Best, most safest places in the world. Yep, agree on that. Biggest transfer, Fuzzy and Donna. Yo, we're out for 3 months. Well, yeah, that's a bad one. But hey, that's just like timber for Arsenal. Yeah, with Bowen and Kudus and Emmers. That'd be nice. We'll have that all day long. But people in the chat, again, thanks for being with us. We appreciate you being here. And me and James are out. And we'll just say good night.
Take care, man.